It's more about Tampa than it is about Philly, and I think if you just blindly, didn't give you the name of each team and looked at the rosters, Philly's a better team. So I have no issue with them being favored. I think they should be favored in that game. But of course, that's the million-dollar question right there. If he can't throw the ball, then the Eagles' playoff hopes rely on the shoulder and arm of Marcus Mariota. What bothers me about that, if you're a Philly fan, is why'd you go back in? Like, where's the guy on the sideline, the adult on the sideline, the responsible coach on the sideline saying, look, we're playing like crap. The Giants are blowing us out. Dallas is going to beat Washington. We're going to be the 5 seed. We're going to go to Tampa. Yeah. There's no benefit now to put him back in the game and risk injury. And now you see the results of that. If you can't grip a ball on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you don't really practice on Friday, of course, if they want them to go out there and just try to throw a ball, they can do it. That means, how do you expect that guy in that offense now to be kicking on all cylinders when you essentially haven't practiced? And let's not forget, they quit against the New York Giants. So now you've got your quarterback who's got a dislocated middle finger on his throwing hand. We've all seen it before. You tape it together. You hope you can throw it, but you can't squeeze it, so you can't make those touch throws, right? Mm-hmm. Then you have A.J. Brown, who hasn't practiced all week either. You saw the knee injury against the New York Giants, and you're starting to say to yourself, I mean, how in the world is that offense going to score outside of relying on DeAndre Swift and Gainwell to run the ball 40 times?
Well, that's the only solid shot they got, Craig, and I think you're 100% right. Before Jalen Hurts hurt his finger, man, he was 6 of 12 for 47 yards. Why throw him back out there, right? And I think you're spot on. But what's the one thing that's hindered Jalen Hurts from being a solid MVP this season? Was the fumbles. He has 9 fumbles this season. So now you talk about a quarterback that has fumble issues with a bad hand on his throwing hand. How can he be the Jalen Hurts they need him to be if he can't even throw the football?
Now, I don't want to be the old guy in the room. We have seen quarterbacks in playoff games with fingers taped up have great games. Dave Craig comes to mind in Kansas City, and that's going back 30 years. I know that, but that's how my mind works. So it's not that he can't do it, but here's my concern. You know full well that every day this week they got him trying to grip a ball.
With a glove on, by the way.
And if you can't grip a ball, this ain't high school football. This is the NFL. You can't play.
Yeah, and every defender on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are fully aware of we got to get to Jalen Hurts.
Right.
If he's in that game, we got to get to Jalen Hurts. Even if we touch his hand, tap his hand, hold his hand, it doesn't matter. He could be walking back to the huddle, and I'm like, "What up, Jalen?" And I accidentally hit that hand. Like that's real. Like that's reality. That's playoff ball. And like when you look at what they do well, they run the ball well. But if you give a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have a solid defense, an opportunity to make you one-dimensional, and it's not because they made you one-dimensional. You made yourself one-dimensional because you allowed your quarterback to stay in the game that absolutely meant nothing to you. That's frustrating, and that's coaching. And Jalen Hurts saying that and giving us that bit of information and more, it's very telling.
You can tell when he was asked the question, like, have you thrown a ball? He paused for a second. He's like, oh, God. I have to answer this question. He's like, I wish I just tossed it from me to you before I got out here. Right. And you've got a wide receiver that can't run and a quarterback that can't throw, and you're
coaches that can't coach.
If you're Todd Bowles, you're like, you're going to see stack boxes.
Another wide receiver that's coming off of ankle injury.
Right. Yes. And you got your starting safety who's limited in practice this week as well in Blankenship. So there's blood in the water. Maybe Tampa can win. Let's go to second in football.
Should Josh Allen be less aggressive in the playoffs?
Well, I think no, he shouldn't, because he's got to be Josh Allen, or else his team doesn't work and his offense doesn't work.
You saw the last game.
I know, they won. And I know he threw the ball across his body and threw it up for grabs, 40 yards up in the air. Where were you?
You're a wide receiver.
I wasn't.
I need you. What are you looking at?
He's speaking. We're in a conversation.
I apologize for getting the chin with that. I know you don't like balls on the chin. No. That being said, look, Josh Allen has to be, some people, Josh Allen has to be Josh Allen. Here's my concern, though, and it's the weather again. We're all talking about the weather in Kansas City, but they're playing Pittsburgh team that's got no passing game offense in reality. I know that Deontay Johnson.
What are you talking about? It's all nonsense coming out of your mouth right now.
And George Pickens all of a sudden, started to score in a little bit, and they put 27 points on the board. Is what I say to that.
Rudolph the Pickens. You heard it here.
If I'm Pittsburgh, Mason Rudolph doesn't throw the ball a single time in this game. Nonsense. You are talking about record-setting wind. You can deal with the rain. You can deal with the snow, and I think there's moments where you can even deal with the cold at some levels. wind changes everything.
Yes.
And Mason Rudolph is not throwing the ball 10 yards down the field. Josh Allen is. It's going to be snowy, and they are talking about, you see it right there, 45-mile-per-hour gusts.
That's crazy.
Now, a lot of people are going to tell you that it's going to be running versus running. I think Buffalo comes out throwing the ball because they've got a quarterback who's got an arm to do it. And I think Buffalo destroys the Steelers.
I've never heard more nonsense out of your mouth in the last week.
Thank you.
It's absolutely true. We're not talking about the Arizona Steelers. We're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Everything that Buffalo has dealt with or can deal with, so does the Pittsburgh Pittsburgh
Mason
Steelers.
Rudolph is your quarterback.
And you ever heard of Nick Herbig, who's replacing T.J. Watt? He's going to tear Josh Allen's head off.
Is that right?
He will be in your gravy stirring all day, baby. So bottom line,
So you
watch
say,
out.
just so I have this right, the great Willie Colon, Mr. Pittsburgh, just said that there's going to be no drop-off from arguably the greatest defensive end in the game today.
That's what
to
he's
a guy I
saying.
never heard
Nick
of.
Herbig.
I'm saying it's not about drop-off, it's about impact. He will impact the game in a major way.
I really appreciate that, and I love how you got the footage prepared and everything. But I also have a graphic in regards
you
to
brought
this
graphics.
football contest.
Oh, okay. I thought I was the graphic king.
So Nick Herbig, I'm really happy for Nick Herbig getting shown on national television for the first time in his whole entire life. But when T.J. Watt plays,
yes,
and when T.J. Watt does not play,
is there a difference?
You'll never believe this. There's a very dramatic difference in the production of the defense. And I don't care how many Nick Herbigs you have, you do not have T.J. Watt. And I'm vamping because they don't have the graphic ready. But they're gonna.
That's why you're not the graphic king. That's why you're not the graphic king.
With T.J. Watt, look at that. And then without,
what are you doing?
Look at the difference in points per game. Look at the difference in the win-loss record. Look at all of this. And all I have to say,
Craig is ruining it for me.
all I have to say, Mr. Cologne, is that the Bills Mafia is Josh Allen.
Oh, my Lord.
Josh Allen,
Yeah.
you know what? He might not finish the game, not because of Nick Herbig, because they'll be up by 4 scores and it's cold out, and he's not going to want.
By the way, if you read an article in the paper tomorrow that sales of Bills merchandise has tripled in the last couple of days, it's all because
this all came from my house.
This all
came from my house.
Of Jacoby.
Bills Mafia for life.
But, look, obviously there's a drop-off, but you're saying that the kid that you're talking about is a kid none of us really know anything about or heard of.
Know, Craig.
But he knows how to get into the backfield.
You will know.
Is that
And
right?
I also know Josh Allen has 22 interceptions on the year.
Yeah.
He's only going up because he had 19-ish last year.
He also has 50 touchdowns.
Well,
this
that's
year.
the thing. All right? That's the thing.
What else you got, Jacoby?
Please, Jacoby.
So Tyreek Hill's getting big time by his former teammates. Does he need to have a big game for the Dolphins to be successful?
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, of course he does. He's the difference maker. The key there for them is obviously their ability to run the ball because of the weather. And that's no joke. 30 below zero. I got to figure it's going to be a very slow game. A lot of running in this game because of the weather and because of the wind. They're very similar to Buffalo. But, I mean, the reality is that, Tyreek Hill, though, in this game, I would use him a lot in, like, jet sweeps, coming in motion, handing him the ball because you can't guard him on a perfect day. And now you're saying that you can have the defensive backs, quote unquote, on skates in a crazy weather game. One cut and he's gone. Like, he is a legitimate threat to score from any place on the field. And I'm not quite sure how you defend that speed when the weather's going to be what it is.
So I don't think he needs to go off. However, you talk about impact of a game. I think he has to impact the game, and Tua has to get him involved early. It doesn't mean that he's going to have 50-yard pops here or there, but they got to throw the ball down the field. They got to soften that defense so that run game can.
Let me ask you this. One of the positive things everyone has said about Tua, even going back to Alabama, right, was that from throws that are 20 yards and less, he is the most accurate passer in the NFL.
Right.
Like, he's hitting darts, right? Bullseye, bullseye. And the question was the deep ball. Put that aside. But to me, this is the game where Tua shows you why they drafted him over Justin Herbert. Because if he can throw those real quick slants, real quick crossing patterns, dig routes, all that kind of stuff, not 50 yards down the field where the wind will play rolling it and the snow and all that stuff. But if he can go pop, 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 That's where
He'll eat you
Tua
up.
is supposed to be
But
special.
so I'm the Kansas City Chiefs. Blitz early, blitz often, make him uncomfortable, mess up his rhythm and time, and then you got a legit shot.
Where they will have a hard time doing that is with Tua because he gets the ball out of his
Really
hands
fast,
so quick.
yeah.
So getting him off his spot is not really something that you want to do. You just want to harass him a bit. But for me, it's the line of scrimmage, and that's across the board. That's receivers to DB getting off the line of scrimmage because footing might be an issue. The quicker you beat that guy, that defender, the quicker that ball can get into your hands. And you talk about Tua being extremely accurate. You are going to have to throw the ball in this weather. You can't completely eliminate who you are and what you do well. However, you have to allow that to open up what we don't know you for, which is the running game, which they are really good at, and Kansas City.
And I'll tell you something else. Just it's a small little thing right now. It may be big on Saturday night. The kicking game becomes paramount here.
Yes.
Not just field goal kicks. I'm talking punts because of the wind and the weather, and I'm talking kickoffs. You will have more kickoff returns in this game than you might ordinarily have because whichever way that wind's blowing, you ain't kicking the ball through the end zone in 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts. You're just not. So you may also decide, I can't kick a 45-yard field goal going into the wind.
Yep.
So it's going to be a real good game between Mike McDaniel and Andy Reid. You could make the argument that the better coach wins this game.
Yeah, I think in both the Bills game and this game, you might get some 4th and 4s, 4th and 5s that you would normally just kick a field goal where you might have to go for.
No doubt. Hey there. Thank you so much for watching The Carton Show. You can subscribe right here to get all the latest bits and segments from the show. And by the way, while you're at it, we have a lot of great shows on FS1, so check them out too.